The information provided by Trading Forex Price Action to you does not constitute personal financial advice. The information provided is of a general nature only and does not take into account your individual objectives, financial situation, or needs. It should not be used, relied upon, or treated as a substitute for specific professional advice.
Hey guys, this is a midweek analysis for May 25th of 2022. Alright, we'll start off with the Euro-Yen pair. Okay, this is a weekly chart. Let me run you by the setup I'm currently looking at. So the last weekly long trade that form was right here, and the last weekly short trade that form was right here. And in my opinion, this weekly long trade is stronger than this weekly short trade, so the weekly bias is long. Or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot high before reaching this pivot low. And at the current moment, I'm looking for possible mid-row long entries to form on the lower time frames in these areas right here. So let me show you what I'm looking at. Let's go over to the 4-hour chart. Okay, so on this 4-hour chart, if you recall, initially the last lower confirmation for that weekly bias was of short strength, and that was from this trend line, from this pivot to this pivot right here. As you can see, there was a breakout and immediate break back in. However, price came right back down to that pivot low to make strong short strength, and price gave this nice fall all the way down here. However, as you guys know, on this pair, I'm only looking for the long entries at this point, for there's overarching monthly strong long strength on this pair. And then yesterday, there was a possible long strong strength setup that formed, and that's from this trend line, from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now right here, there's a breakout and a break back in. Now this is not an immediate break back in. However, if price gaps in the direction of the break back in essence, that is the same as a breakout and immediate break back in. And so at this point, there was normal short strength confirmed. And so if price could pull right back up to this pivot high right here, that will create strong long strength. And in that case, I'll be willing to take a long entry right when this pivot high is touched, with a stop loss at the pivot low, which is right here at this moment, or that strong long strength was created. Okay, and moreover, seeing that most major pairs are ranging at the moment, let me show you how I'll be managing this trade. So hypothetically, if price does come up to that pivot high, creating strong long strength, I will take a long entry with the stop loss at this pivot low right here. However, on the way up, on this 4-hour chart or the daily chart, if there is a hammer that forms at any pivot, that often precedes another lower confirmation in the opposite direction. So in other words, if a hammer forms on this 4-hour chart or daily chart, price often reverses direction just to make a confirmation in the opposite direction, most likely being this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. So price will break it out, immediately break back in, and still hit that pivot low to make strong short strength. So I will be watching for this type of hammer to form for a possible abort of this long trade. Okay, and I'll keep you guys updated with what happens on this one. So let's go on to the dollar CAD. Okay, this is a daily chart. Let me run you by the current setup I'm looking at. So the last daily long trade that form was right here, and the last daily short trade that form was right here. Now this short trade is ever so slightly stronger than this long trade in my opinion, so the daily bias is short, or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot low before reaching this pivot high. Now that said, since this short trade is only slightly stronger than this long trade, I am looking to the lower time frame confirmations to confirm this daily bias, whether long or short. So let me go ahead and show you what's happening on the lower confirmation. Let's go over to the 4-hour chart. Okay, so on this 4-hour chart, if you recall, the last confirmation was of strong short strength. And that's from this trend line, from this pivot to this pivot right here. Now there was a breakout and immediate break back in. However, price came right back down to that pivot low to create strong short strength. And then moreover, price pulled back all the way up to these levels. But if you recall, I needed a pullback right up to these 29.70 levels for me to take a short entry. For the stop loss will be at this pivot high right here. However, we did not get that pullback and price continued down along with that strong short strength, And at the current moment, there's actually normal strength in both directions. So on the long end, that's right here, there's a breakout, an immediate break back in. That creates normal long strength. And that's from this trend line, from this pivot to this pivot right here. And then moreover on the short end, about 8 hours ago, there was a breakout, an immediate break back in to the short side. So this created normal short strength. And again, that trend line is from this pivot to this pivot right here. Okay, so at this point, if price continues down to reach this pivot low, that will make strong short strength. However, if price comes up to this pivot high, that will create strong long strength. Now, in this case, since I'll be only taking normal bias entries with the stop losses at this pivot high for a short trade, and the stop loss at this pivot low for a long entry. Since this stop loss level at this pivot right here is closer, and moreover, since the daily bias does seem to have slightly more short strength, I much rather take a short entry. Okay, so what I'm looking for is for price to actually reach this pivot high right here to make strong long strength. However, at the same time, if I could get a V-shaped recovery on the lower time frames, which is from the 1 minute to 15 minute chart, well, that will confirm extreme short strength. However, again, even if I do get this extreme short strength confirmed, I'm still going to need a pullback all the way up to the 129.70 levels to take a short entry, with a stop loss at this pivot high right here and its main target at this pivot low right here. All right, so this pair is actually showing confusing signals right now. So we'll just see what happens with this setup. Okay, so let's go on to the Aussie Yen pair. All right, this is a weekly chart. Let me run you by the current setup I'm looking at. So on this weekly chart, the last short trade that formed was right here, and the last long trade that formed was right here last week. And in my opinion, there's ever so slightly more long strength from this long trade than the short strength from this short trade. So going strictly from this weekly bias, the bias for the time being seems to be long, or in other words, price is likely to reach this pivot high before reaching this pivot low. However, since the strength differential between the two is very slight, I will be watching the lower confirmations to confirm this weekly bias. So let me go ahead and show you what I'm looking for. Let's go over to the 4-hour chart. Okay, so on this 4-hour chart, try drawing this trend line from this pivot to this pivot right here. As you can see, there was a breakout and an immediate break back in, which signals normal long strength. However, price could fall right back down to that pivot low. That will create strong short strength. And this would actually confirm a weekly short bias. However, in this case, if I were to take a short entry, that stop loss will be way up at this pivot high right here, causing me to have a huge stop loss. So in this case, I actually want lower time frame strong long strength to be confirmed, so I could take a long entry with the stop loss at this pivot low right here, which is much closer to current price. So ideally what I want to happen is that when price falls back down to this level, or if it does, and creates strong short strength, if a V-shaped recovery can form on the 1 minute to 15 minute chart, well, that will show extreme long strength. And in that case, that will confirm a weekly long bias. However, in this case also, I cannot be taking mid-road entries, so I will need a pullback all the way down to the 88.20 levels, perhaps around here, for about 100 pips stop loss, with a stop loss at this pivot low. Okay, so we'll just see what happens with this setup, and I'll keep you guys updated on this one also. All right, so that's it for the midweek analysis. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week, guys, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.